Hey innovators, welcome to episode number 30 of the Simplified Integration Podcast. Is it time to move away from the mom and pop shop?
Leonardo da Vinci once said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and I agree. You see, the problem with the way that most consulting groups approach medical integration is anything but simple. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's expensive, it's complicated, and quite frankly, it's exhausting. Enough is enough. There are far too many amazing integrated clinics that are struggling. Well, I'm on a mission to change that. What I've come to find from over 5 years working with integrated practices is that simplicity really is the secret. The old saying of less is more is true. Through a streamlined approach, I was able to create multiple successful 7-figure integrated clinics, and now I'm going to show you how you can do the same. Join me as I share with you the secrets to successful medical integration and practice growth. Join me on a journey to greater sophistication through innovation. I'm Dr. Andrew Wells, and welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, Doc? Great to have you back here today. So I want to talk about a struggle that a lot of chiropractors are dealing with in practice and what I call running a mom and pop shop. And there's a lot of different definitions of running a mom and pop business. And what I mean by this in the chiropractic sense is a business that you're sort of chained to, a business that relies on you personally to make sure that it operates. And chiropractors have to wear a lot of different hats. They have to be the doctor, the exam doctor, the adjusting doc, the marketer, the business person, sometimes the front desk person. There's a lot of different hats that we wear. And because of that, it keeps us tied to our office, physically tied to our office. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from chiropractors is, I would love to have a life outside my practice. I would love to be able to take a day off or to go on vacation or not to have to be completely reliant on me physically being in my practice. And that's a tough thing to break away from as a chiropractor. For the first couple of years, I had no idea how to do that. And I often, people always ask me, like, why are chiropractors only open like Monday through Thursday? Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a lot of chiropractic offices are like they're open for 4 days and closed for 3 days. And I think it's because chiropractic is so dang demanding that sometimes people need a 3-day weekend to feel normal. But on the flip side of that is you're also losing a day of production. You're losing a day of revenue. So it can be a really tricky balance in the chiropractic profession to run a profitable business, but also have a life outside of practice. And I talk to a lot of doctors who have been in practice for 20, 30 years, and they're really like, they're worn out. They're physically worn out, they're mentally worn out, they're spiritually worn out because they've just been giving so much to their patients and their practice. It can be it's such a demanding role on your body. And I know that when I first got into practice, I had some doubt about being a chiropractor because just the hustle and the amount of work you had to put in, I'm like, man, I can't see myself doing this for the next 30 years. And this became really clear to me when right after our first 2 years in practice. So my wife and I got married right after I graduated school. We were working really hard to open our new clinic, and I was never able to take my wife on a honeymoon, and I felt really guilty about that. And in my mind, like I always pictured I got married and we'd drive to the airport and fly and go somewhere, like go on vacation for 2 weeks. And that was like what I had envisioned for my wedding. The problem was in this part of our life, we had zero time and we had zero money. We were working 6 days a week. We were, we were making money, but we were plugging it all back into our business. And that's where all of our time and money went. And so sadly, my wife and I were like dying to take this honeymoon. At the time, we were part of a coaching group. And I remember one of our coaches like saying like really strongly recommending that we didn't take a honeymoon, which made no sense to me. He's like, no, you need to plug into your business. You can't take time off. You're only 2 years, and I would never take time off on vacation in my first 2 years in practice. And I'm like, this sounds off, right? And so finally, my wife and I are like, all right, we're doing this. We're going on vacation, and we set up our honeymoon over Christmas vacation because number one, I felt guilty about leaving my practice behind, and I felt like if I gave up a week or 2 weeks of actual clinic time, that our business was really going to suffer. And the truth is, it would have suffered, but not too much. Like we could have made it happen, but it was important for us to go on a honeymoon and take some time off together and just have time for my wife and I to be alone. So we set this honeymoon up over Christmas vacation because that would have the least impact on our business. And we flew to the Caribbean and had an awesome 10-day vacation, 10-day honeymoon. And I remember before I left, I called one of my coaches, and he's like, "What? You're taking 10 days off from your clinic? Like how can you do that? It's such a bad mistake." I'm like, "Dude, this is my honeymoon. Like, I owe this to my wife. My wife and I want to do this." And he's like, "Well, that's a bad decision. I would never do that." That was the first time I'm like, I'm done with this management company, because they could give like two craps about me as a person. Like a normal person would say, "That's exciting. Enjoy your honeymoon." But that was my first. That was like, yeah, this is probably not the right management group to be a part of. So I left that group. I didn't want them making me feel guilty about going on vacation. But he was also right in some degree, because as a mom and pop business, it's really tough to be able to take those types of vacations. So again, we did it over Christmas vacation. Had we were there for 10 days, and we wanted to have the least amount of impact on our business. And we were in the Caribbean. We had an awesome time. We got to slow down. We got to refocus. It was great for our relationship. I got to lay in a hammock. I actually got to read a fiction book for the first time in a long time, which I never had time to do. It was really, really, really nice. And it was good in a lot of ways. It was good for our physical, mental, spiritual health, good for our relationship. I'm really glad we did it. But I also felt guilty because I had to put it off for so long. And so I remember laying in the hammock on our honeymoon thinking, like, how am I ever going to make this happen again? Because I'm going to go right back to our clinic. It's going to be the same mom and pop operation. It's going to be very tough again to pull myself away from the practice. And I'm like, I really don't want to have to take a vacation every Christmas, or to have to plan it over these holidays like that. And so this was one of the big things that got me exploring other options, other types of practices, other types of businesses, because I didn't want to be tied to my business. And so if you're listening to this and that is an issue that you're having, it may be time to look at a different type of business model. And this is one of the things that got me looking into medical integration, because medical integration, the big promises are you can make more money and you don't have to be necessarily tied to your practice 24/7. So that was really attractive to me. I've also talked to hundreds and hundreds of doctors all across the country, docs who are new in practice, docs who have been in practice for 30 years. And that's one of the struggles a lot of people deal with, is that how do you break away from your practice life and be able to enjoy your life outside of practice without stress or feeling guilty about doing things on your own time, or actually having a life. How about that, having a life outside of chiropractic? And so this is one of the things that pushed me into integration. And I remember, integration for us, when we made the transition, it was tough. It was a ton of work. It was really, really difficult. But I remember the first day that I actually left practice during a work week. This was after we integrated, and I took the day off on Friday to go to a conference. And I remember being there. I showed up to the office on Friday morning, and I remember feeling like really scared, really nervous, and really guilty about leaving. And it was just going to be for Friday. In fact, we were only open for Friday morning, for the Friday morning shift. And I remember my office manager looks at me and she goes, like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm afraid to leave the practice." And she goes, "It's going to be okay. We know what we're doing." So we had everything lined up. We had prepared for it. I had spent a lot of time developing my team and my staff. And they're all like, "Dr. Wells, like, see you later. Go away. Like, we don't need you here anymore." And I'm like, "Really?" And so I had all these like fears. I wasn't used to that. And so I left that morning, and it felt so weird to be pulling away from my practice while the clinic was seeing patients and generating income, and people were being taken care of, and the staff was handling problems. And it was amazing. And so I was able to go have a conference over the weekend. I didn't see patients or help patients that Friday morning, and everything was fine. And so the more I built up my practice and developed my team, the more time I had to pull away from the clinic to work on the business, not in the business. And that's what so many chiropractors are after, is to be able to do that and run your business as a business and not as a mom and pop shop. Because once you move away from the Dr. Wells show or the Dr. Smith show, whatever your name is, when you get away from that, it allows you to sort of elevate yourself above your clinic to now start developing it as a real business with systems and staff that can run protocols and run programs for you. And it's incredibly rewarding. It's a lot of work, but it's incredibly rewarding. And so now, I'm in a position where I've opened other businesses and I help other doctors open their businesses. I can do consulting and management work because I have a team that can do a lot of work for me. So I don't know if this resonates with you. If it does, if it's something that you're struggling with and want to have a life outside of practice, or just maybe work on other businesses or expanding your business, integration can be an awesome vehicle to do that. It comes with challenges, it comes with risks, but just the nature of operating a medical clinic or an integrated clinic, you have to hire people. You have to hire medical service providers to do a lot of the work for you. So it forces you into moving away from the mom and pop shop. And on the other side of that is, financial reward and time freedom. Just last year in October, we took a month off and went to Italy. So we were there for over a month. I would never, ever, ever be able to do that if we were in our mom and pop chiropractic shop. So there's all kinds of benefits from moving away from that type of business model. If you're of that mindset and thinking that way, I would highly encourage you to do some research and figure out if it's a right fit for you. If you have any questions or want to bounce some ideas off me or need some advice, I'm happy to help out any way I can. You can always email me at info@integrationsecrets.com. Again, that's info@integrationsecrets.com. Doc, I'm so grateful that you joined me on my podcast today. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast episode. Hope you have a great day. God bless.
Hey, innovators. Thanks for listening to the Simplified Integration Podcast. The fact that you're listening tells me that you're like me, someone who loves simplicity. And the truth is, those who embrace simplicity are some of the greatest innovators. So I hope you got a ton of value from what we covered on today's episode. Be sure to subscribe and share with other docs that you feel could benefit from greater sophistication through simplification and innovation. If you've got specific questions that you'd like answered on this podcast, or you've got specific topics that you'd like me to discuss, just shoot me an email at info@integrationsecrets.com. That's info@integrationsecrets.com.